Hi, it's Dr. Sasheen, and welcome again to Women in Transition. Like I told y'all, I'm back, and I am most assuredly back. It's good to see you. So let's continue the conversations that we have been having, and that I'm hoping to continue to start about what life for you is going to look like right now. If you haven't watched my video, The New Rules of Engagement, where I talk about the most important rules for you at this point in your life, you need to go watch that. As Gen X women, there are only two rules that we really need to keep in mind. Number one, our peace is non negotiable, plain and simple. We've lived through enough things, enough catastrophes, enough not catastrophes to recognize that the most important and valuable thing that we can do is protect our peace. The second rule, nothing and no one messes with rule number one. So those are the only two rules that we need to worry about. But on top of the rules, which are our foundation, are other things that we have to consider. So I've been talking about if you've been paying attention recently, how to recession proof your life, how to use your skills. Like, I'm hoping that you get the sense that I don't want you to think of what may be happening right now in your transitionary years, whether you're going through divorce, whether you have kids, kids are leaving, have no kids. Whether you've lost a job due to layoffs recently, whether it's time for you to leave a job because layoffs might be coming, whether you stay in a country that might be going through some things, or whether you choose to leave a country because you don't feel like going through no more things, whatever the case may be, whatever the case may be. Today, I want to talk to you about why the idea of starting over is so scary and another way to think about it. So, at various points in time in my life, I have, I guess you could say, started over. But I don't know that I necessarily consider it starting over so much as I teach my clients about the idea of being on the road, right? And at various points in the road, you come to a fork. And you can choose to stay on the path that you're on and let a fork go, or you can choose to take the fork. The fork isn't starting over, the fork is another part of your journey that you have chosen to walk. Starting over sounds scary because it feels like, oh my God, I have to like tear everything down and then rebuild it all. And you don't have to do that. You, in fact, can look at your journey where it is, take the things with you that are working, but also put a new piece onto your life. You can take the fork. And then as you walk that path that may become well worn and very comfortable, another fork will come along and you can decide to continue a well worn path or take another road less traveled by. I think you trust. But again, you're not abandoning all that you have known up to this point. You're simply choosing to take another path. All of the paths are still yours. All of the roads lead you to wherever you want to go. Some destinations get taken off the table because you choose to turn left instead of right, but that's a choice, right? And by making those choices, I fidget with my hair, y'all. If y'all didn't figure it out by now, just it's my thing. Um, but when we make the choice to take the fork one way or the other or stay the path, the fear that we're missing out, that FOMO, man, the fear that we're abandoning something too soon, that we have to start all over again. Oh my gosh, Dr. Sasheen, do I really have to start another path all over again? No, you absolutely don't. What you have to do is look at who you are, decide where you're going, and if the road that you're currently on gets you to where you want to be, stay on the road. If it doesn't, the power of the pivot says I can shift to another part of my journey on a road that might be not quite as familiar to me because I haven't walked it yet. But I'm bringing with me along that road some really important life skills, some really important moments that I have used to give me wisdom, some really important education that I might have gone to school to get. Like, there's so many things about me that are not getting left behind. Because I feel like what's happening when people say, "Oh, you got to start over, you got to start over," it's sell everything, move into a van, and see the world. Which, if that's what you want to do, go for it. But even if you sell all of your material possessions, buy a van, RV, whatever, and travel, you take you with you. Starting over doesn't mean burning it all down to a complete nub and hoping that out of the ashes something will grow. Starting over means I'm going to take the soil that works for me and I'm going to go plant it in a new garden. But I'm taking some of my soil with me because I have to. There's no feasible reason to say that starting over has got to be the worst and most traumatic experience. It's hard, absolutely. But come on now, life is hard. There are a series of events through life that are hard. But that's what I want you to think about as you are listening to messages about people starting over. There are a series of chapters in our lives. When you turn the page of a book, it's a new chapter. You didn't leave all the characters behind. I mean, some of them might have gotten left behind, and that's a good thing. But you're still going through the book. You are the main character. And because you are the main character, you're not leaving all parts of you behind on the road. You might shed some pieces of your identity that no longer serve you, which is where a fork in the road usually shows up, right? That's where we kind of get this, oh, I no longer feel like this part of my life works or that I fit here. So what's next? So maybe I'm going to start walking down this path. It's unknown, it's different, but I'm taking me with me as I go. So I'm trying to diffuse some of the fear around the triggering idea of starting over. And there are a lot of videos, a lot of videos talking about starting over. And I think they all get something really right, which is that it is scary. It is scary and it can be done. But I think they also get something very wrong. And that is they make it sound like you've got to leave everything behind, including the things that are so important to you about you in order to start over again. You get to define how much or little you want to start over. You get to define that. No one can tell you you should burn it all down and rebuild from the ground up. Maybe you don't want to. Maybe what you really want is a condo instead of a house. That's starting over. Maybe what you really want is to write a novel as opposed to go to grad school. That's starting over. You decide to become a writer instead of enrolling for a grad program that you don't care about anyway. That's also starting over. Maybe you do decide to go back to med school at the wonderful age of 55 because you're tired of being an accountant. That's starting over. You don't have to sell your whole world to do that. You've got some skills and probably a decent income. Why do you gotta live like a poor college student when you don't have to, right? Like starting over gets to look like what you have decided that it needs to look like. Now, sometimes circumstances pushes us into the basement of things and we have to rebuild. Starting over and rebuilding can go hand in hand, but they're not completely synonymous with each other. Sometimes when we're starting over, we're doing just that. We're taking a piece of our lives that doesn't fit and we're starting something new that fits. Starting over. That does not require a complete rebuild of the engine because the engine's running just fine. So I think if we can take the all or nothing mentality off the table, that it's either I'm struggling and starting over and it's hard and it's heavy, or I'm not starting over and I'm just staying in the status quo. And we look at the place in our life where we want to start over, places where we don't really need to start over, and we go from there. And we remember that I'm going to take the pieces of me with me that I like, and I can leave the pieces that I don't behind. And that's a beautiful thing about it. I can start over in this little area or in this big area, but I can also bring with me the stuff that makes me comfortable, that keeps me sane, that honors my identity, and allows me to keep telling my story in my own way. Starting over shouldn't be an explosion in your life. Circumstances may explode in your life, requiring you to rebuild your life. In that rebuilding process, you may choose to start again. You may choose to start over. You may also choose to go right back to the status quo because you were completely happy before the thing exploded in your life, and you would just like to get back to that. That's also just fine. In the end, the goal with any kind of life transition is to provide us a fork in the road, a moment where we can look at our own self and say, I appreciate this, but I'd like some changes. So I'm going to go this way now. Or I really appreciate this, and I'd like to see where else this path is going to lead. So I'm going to keep right on walking forward, and I'm not going to take that path over there. Meaning I'm not going to say yes to the possibility of that path because I'm saying yes to this one and I don't need to start over. But should you decide to take that other path, just know that all the things that got you to the fork in the road, the thing that pops up in our lives that requires us to make some decisions about should we stay or should we go, the things that got you to that fork are things that are going to go with you on the curve. Whether you stay the path, the well-worn path in front of you, or whether you take the curve into the road less traveled, you take you with you. And that has to bring you some comfort. And the things that you don't like about you, the things that might have gotten you to the fork in the road to begin with, leave that stuff behind. Okay, I'm going to take the new path. I'm going to take a different fork. I'm going to move myself onto the road less traveled. And I'm going to leave behind some of the things that brought me to this fork in the road to begin with, where I needed to make a decision about if I was going to stay the course or take the fork. I'm going to leave that stuff behind because it didn't serve me very well. And all it really did was make my journey harder than I wanted it to be. So when I go on this new path, that's still me, I'm still taking all my good stuff with me, I'm going to leave some of that hard stuff behind. When we look at it that way, starting over doesn't feel so big. It doesn't feel so monumental. It doesn't feel so out of reach or so arduous. It feels like just another step, just one more step on a path, one more page in a book that we're turning of our lives, one more line that we're writing along our journey. And it's doable, right? It's completely doable when it's not all consuming and when we get to take the best parts of ourselves with ourselves. So hopefully that message resonates out there with someone. A lot of folks are starting over today for many different reasons. And the fork in this path is just the latest in a series of forks, right? There have been forks all over the place. My first job, fork in the road. After high school, what to do, fork in the road. After college, what to do, fork in the road. After college again, what to do, fork in the road, right? Take the job, go to grad school, fork in the road. All kinds of forks in the road. They're always coming. And through every fork, we show up for ourselves and we make the best decision that we can for ourselves. And we take the parts of ourselves with us that we hope to cultivate more of. And that's the beautiful thing about the fork in the road. Generally, we can go, oh, you know what? I'd actually like to try this out for a bit. This new version of myself. Still me, just something a little bit new, something a little bit different. And so we go that way. And we spend 2 or 3 years or 5 or 10 years or 20 or 30 years. And then another fork shows up and says, are you still happy here? Or maybe it's time to take this bend in the road and see where it goes down there by the river that you didn't know was there, but now you're really like, you know what, I always wanted a boat. Into all of the darkness that can sometimes play with our mind, play tricks on our psyche, and weigh us down, especially as women, especially as we get older and society wants to tell us that the only thing that we're good for is giving really sound advice or taking care of somebody else's babies. Into that, I'm wanting to speak to you about your fork in the road. Your fork that says, hello, still here. So now what do you want to do? Now what do you get to do? Is it time to make a new path? Is it time to stay the status quo? What is it? What's going on with you? And as you're making the decisions, what is it about the years in your life and the life in your years that you want to take with you on that journey? That is a question that you get to answer because you've earned the right to do so. And whatever your answer is, there's always another fork. If you don't like this one, 6 months from now, there'll be another fork in the road that you might go, you know what? I really like that old path that I was on. I'm going to double back. Or more importantly, I'm going to see if I can't intersect back on the path because for the past 6 months, year, I've been doing something different. I'm a little different now. And so though I may decide I want to go back to that status quo that I had before, I'm not going to be the same person. But guess what happens? I get to take some of this new person with me back to that old path, and that's going to make the old path new again. See how this works out? We take ourselves with us everywhere that we go. And so let's not be afraid of the journey of starting over, of the path that we're on to start over, because our best friend, us, will hold our hands every step of the way, will never abandon us, and will provide us with everything that we need to be successful on it. And if it doesn't appear the way we want it to, a fork in the road will, and we'll go a different direction. I hope this makes sense. And I hope it helps someone out there who might be struggling right now because of circumstances, because of things that might be happening, because of ideas that might be, because of information overload that might be pouring in to you. Starting over is not a bad word. It doesn't have to be an anxious and anxiety producing thing. You take yourself with you wherever you go. All right. I have a new book out called The Anxiety Solution for those who might need a little help in the darkness, figuring out how to de-trigger life so that they can make decisions about that fork in the road, so that they can stand in their priorities and see how they can begin to live out the things that they want to live out in these very trying times. That book is located at the link in the description of the video. It is only an ebook at this point. I do not have I don't have an on-demand printer yet. I'm not sure if I'm going to make it into a book that you can purchase and have a physical copy of, so the ebook is where it's at. Okay, that's it for the moment. Please like, subscribe, and share. I know you get tired of hearing it, but it does help the channel if you like, subscribe, share, and comment. And I will see you all very soon. Have a wonderful evening. Bye.